it, and you should get a notice about that right now. So like Jerry said, there will be a presentation, and we will have questions and answers at the end of the presentation. The way that we are going to do this is that if you are able to write a question in the chat box, you're welcome to write it to everyone, or if you click on the everyone button in the chat box, you can click it and write to me, Natalie Reeder. And then I'll be sure to both either I can read out your question, or what we've done too is you can even just say, I have a question. I'll go ahead and click on you so you can be unmuted to ask your question. If you're on the phone, we will have an opportunity. I'll unmute all those on the phone so you can say your question as well. There's also, I believe there are hand raising options. Potentially, if you go to the participant area in Zoom, there's a couple of different hand signals that you can give me, but the easiest way is to chat. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to Jerry.
Thanks, Natalie. These are very unique times, given the international pandemic and the ensuing economic turmoil. Housing at all levels is vitally important and has been evidenced in the actions of the county government, the city council, and the state through the Home Key program, which you'll learn a little bit more about during the presentation. The need to rise to the occasion is imperative, and the partnership of Jamboree and Hope Cooperative are ready to meet these challenges. I'd like to turn it over to Erin for some introductory remarks regarding the project and its location in the River District.
Can we advance the slides, please? Thank you. And yeah, thank you. So as Jerry mentioned, the homeless crisis has continued to grow in our community, and there's a tremendous need for housing throughout the city of Sacramento, as well as in the River District itself. We propose that we are going to be that solution, and we're going to work closely with the River District, Sacramento Steps Forward, SHRA, the city of Sacramento, to ensure that we are actually bringing people into permanent housing for the long term, and providing the appropriate supportive services to ensure that they don't return to homelessness. And so we're going to be talking a lot about that tonight. So thanks for coming, and we appreciate your interest.
So thanks, Erin. We're now going to dive into a little bit of background about Jamboree and Hope Cooperative, respectively. Jamboree is a nonprofit corporation that has over 30 years of history. Combined with Hope Cooperative's 40 years, Jamboree and Hope Cooperative have over 70 years of experience being partners in the communities we serve and providing a range of housing opportunities and supportive service to further the lives of our respective residents. At its core, Jamboree's mission is to deliver high-quality, permanent, affordable housing and services that transforms lives and strengthen communities. And our vision is that every person live in a strong, healthy, permanent, sustainable community. These aren't just words. This vision pervades everything that we do through our development company. We're committed to we're committed to the design of our buildings, both the interior and exterior. We make commitments to our local partners and reach out to community members. We pay attention to the appropriateness of our resident and supportive services in our projects. Safety and security planning is vitally important to all projects, including ours. And our approach to ongoing asset management and ownership is one of a long-term owner. Many affordable housing developers rehab or construct projects and then flip them in 15 years. Jamboree does not do that. Jamboree retains ownership of their projects for 55 years. And we are members of the communities in which we have projects, and we are viewed as assets and not liabilities. Jamboree has developed over 93 properties that include 9,000 units and service 18,800 individuals. We serve individuals ranging from 30 to 80% of area median income, and service families, seniors, those with special needs, homeless individuals, and veterans. On that note, I'd like to turn it over to Erin to say a few words about Hope Cooperative.
Thank you, Jeree. Hope Cooperative has been here in Sacramento for almost 40 years. We'll celebrate our 40th anniversary in May. And our mission is to transform the lives of those living with mental health challenges, substance use disorders, and homelessness by supporting their independence, promoting their housing stability, and empowering them to make positive changes in their lives. We have a team of 250 employees that dedicate their lives to serving the most vulnerable among us, and we are good at it. And you will find that we have an excellent reputation for service right here in our hometown of Sacramento. Advance, please. Some of the properties that we have built that we either own or operate in partnership with others have been in the community for a long time, and they are some of the nicest properties on the blocks in which they exist. We have Possibilities, a transitional housing project for transition age youth, which we're in partnership with Wind Youth Services, and that's a relatively new HUD-funded program. Bell Street Apartments, which is for adults with serious mental illness, formerly homeless, in the Arden Arcade area. And then Folsom Oaks Apartments, which is a family property in which one of the adults has to have a serious mental illness, but the entire family is welcome to live there as their permanent home. It has been said that Folsom Oaks Apartments is a jewel in Folsom. It's very well received by the community, and we welcome you to come and visit anytime you like. Just reach out to me and I can arrange a tour. You can do the next one too, please. We run a similar project in the city of Sacramento called Palmer Apartments, in which we rehabbed a former apartment complex into interim housing. It's at 3131 Palmer Avenue, and it continues to be an asset to the neighborhood in the Del Paso North area of Sacramento. 48 individuals live in this property, and you are welcome to drive by and look at it at any time, and I'm sure you will see how much of an asset it is to that community.
Thanks, Erin. At this point, I'd like to get into the details of the River District Landing proposed project. It's a two-phase, two-parcel development that includes the entire site that is currently the Hawthorn Suites, located at 321 Bercut Drive. When purchased, Jamboree will be the owner of the entire project. Bercut Village, which we're referring to as Phase 1, which is the northern parcel, will use proceeds from the state home key program and will be immediately occupied, and within 3 years be converted to permanent supportive housing. It will operate without kitchens initially, but all other aspects of the project will operate as permanent supportive housing. It will not be a shelter. There will be no congregate meals provided to individuals that don't reside in the property. There will be no access to showers or bathrooms. And given that this will be private property, the property boundaries will be enforced, and only those who reside on the property will be able to remain there. Hope Cooperative will be the service provider for Phase 1 and also will be Jamboree's development partner upon its renovation and conversion to permanent supportive housing. The second and larger phase, which is the southern parcel, is proposed to be developed into workforce housing, including a unit range of 130 to 170 units. What I'd like to do next is provide two examples of projects that Jamboree has developed in the Sacramento region that mirror these two phases that we propose for the River District Landing project. The first is the Hotel Berry, which is located downtown on 8th and L Streets. It serves 105, or it has 105 units and is permanent supportive housing. It is well designed to eliminate areas that are conducive to loitering or camping. It's attractive in its design and integrates into the downtown core. And if you were to pass it on the street, you might think that it was a boutique hotel given its lobby. Jamboree's offices are also located directly across the street. And when we're in, during or before COVID, we would often look down upon it during meetings, and people always comment on what an attractive building it is. It is viewed as an asset downtown and not a detriment, and we would take this same level of detail and attention in our River District project. Sorry, my son just got into the room. I'm sorry. Okay, the next project that I'd like to discuss is our West Gateway project, which is in West Sacramento, just over the Tower Bridge, and it's an example of one of Jamboree's workforce housing development projects. It includes 77 units and has a range of household sizes. It's LEED certified. It has ample amenity space on site and resident service programming to fit the needs of its clientele. It too fits in the fabric of West Sacramento's view of redevelopment and stands out as a signature project and as an asset to the city of West Sacramento. On that note, I'd like to turn it over to Catherine McFadden to discuss some of the more details of the River District Landing project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaree. Good evening, everyone. I'm Catherine McFadden. Wanted to go over the housing objectives. So first, and extremely important, is to become an asset to the community. Jamboree is absolutely committed to building strong, healthy, and sustainable communities, and for our properties to not only be a community asset, but to enhance the community. A second objective is to promote housing stability in the River District and address the tremendous need for housing at all income levels. As related in the opening remarks, we are in the middle of a pandemic and a housing crisis. Jamboree has a track record of providing housing at all income levels, from individuals experiencing homelessness to those who earn a living wage. Right now, quality, safe, affordable housing is more important than ever. Next objective is our partnership with SHRA, who will provide oversight. Jamboree has a strong partnership and history with Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. SHRA will have a financial investment in the River District Landing and will provide oversight and monitoring of the property for 55 years. SHRA is dedicated and a strong partner who will be actively working with Jamboree and Hope Cooperative to ensure the long-term success of this project. The next objective is to acquire the site in December 2020. As previously mentioned, the State Home Key Funding Program, which is funded by the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act funds, require acquisitions of properties be funded or closed by the end of December 2020. And upon acquisition of the site, the first phase, known as Bercut Village, which is the recipient of Home Key, will be the first to move forward. Phase 1 will include refurbishing the 2 buildings located on the north end of the parcel of the campus, so it can be rapidly occupied, pending conversion to permanent housing. And then the next step will be to entitle the entire site, phases 1 and 2, in spring, summer 2021, that will pave the way forward to finance Bercut Village in 2022, complete renovations, and operate as permanent supportive housing by 2023. The final objective is to move phase 2 forward, which is Discovery Apartment Homes, and this will include the financing, developing, and completing the second phase of the campus, which is to include approximately 130 to 170 workforce apartments by 2024. Next slide, please. So next, I wanted to share some information about River District Landing. River District Landing will use the same footprint of the existing building and repurpose the interior design to create common areas for resident services and programming. As previously mentioned, River District Landing will be a phased development. Phase 1 is Bercut Village, and it will include 96 studio and 6 2-bedroom units for formerly homeless and impacted by COVID-19. Phase 2 is Discovery Apartment Homes, which will include a mix of affordable units for working households. While this will be a phased development, operations will benefit from economies of scale, such as using the same property management company for both phases and operating efficiencies. A very important component of all Jamboree communities is enhanced resident services and programming. Bercut Village and Discovery Apartment Homes will have resident services and programming that will enhance these communities. And another important feature of River District Landing will be attention to safety and security features. This will be discussed in more detail in a future slide. River District Landing will serve a mixed income population spanning from housing authority voucher holders to residents earning 60% of area median income. And the tenant population will range from the formerly homeless to workforce housing for singles and families. Next slide, please.
So there are often a number of topics that come up at resident meetings and community meetings. And what we'd like to do next is go through a number of topics that create common questions. They include more detail regarding security, our service program, property oversight, and our resident criteria. We're going to start with, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie, who's going to address kind of Jamboree's oversight of projects. Thanks, Natalie.
Danielle was able to join us, so.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm going to turn it over to Danielle.
No, I'm sorry, everyone. I got in right at 6 p.m. I was coming from another meeting. But I'm Danielle Letary. I oversee our supportive services with Jamboree. And as we've heard, Jamboree, we are an active long-term owner, so it is really important that our sites are operating effectively. And we've really found that the answer to this housing crisis is affordable supportive housing. It's not just that housing though, it's housing with services. That is the answer. We can't just provide this housing without adding those supportive services to help our residents get where they need to be. So really what Jamboree has found to work to be an effective way to manage these types of properties in our 30-year history is really good oversight and coordination. So that's through our asset management team and our on-site supportive services team in coordination with a property management team. So our on-site supportive services team is there on-site 5 days a week, additional time as needed, depending on the resident's schedule. And we're really working off of evidence-based research models. So depending on whatever population is there, we have a model to make sure we're fitting those needs effectively. We integrate tightly with our on-site property management team. This is a third-party organization who lives on-site. So we're working hand in hand with that property management team. If they notice things going on site, our services team can provide services to assist with that. And then we do this consistent monitoring and effective management. So we do this through a myriad of ways. That's between bi-weekly meetings, check-ins, making sure all of our properties are hitting the outcome measures that are expected for these types of properties. And then Jamboree is doing on-site eyes-on inspections of our properties, making sure that they're living up to that Jamboree standard. And then each site does have a resident services plan that's specifically created for that site. And we look at a lot of things to figure out what goes into that services plan. So it's really based on the resident needs. So we get our residents in and we do questionnaires and all different types of research to identify what this population needs and make sure we're having those services available on site or getting them connected to those services. We really look at the community that we're coming in. That goes from the design and the location of our building to see what do we need to have on site and what community resources can we access. What local organizations are there that we can partner with, such as we've been able to partner with Hope Cooperative. So we're really looking at a myriad of things, making sure that our residents have everything they need to succeed and to be good neighbors. Thanks, Jerry.
Danielle, so although Jamboree has an internal resident service and social service arm, their community impact arm, in this instance, Hope Cooperative will be providing on-site resident services given their significant background serving the Sacramento region. So I'd like to turn it over to Erin to talk a little bit more about the resident services plan for Bercut Village.
Thank you. We will be having a full staff of employees that will be on site 24/7. And this is wake staff. So they'll be working the 24/7 that they are on site. And that team will include an outreach navigator who will start as soon as we begin working on this project. That will be one of the first employees that we hire to work with the community, with the River District, with Sacramento Steps Forward to ensure that we have, that we are offering housing housing to people who are currently homeless in the River District. So we're really assisting that community in solution mode. Our staff will also include a housing specialist who will help people move on to other permanent housing should they so choose. We'll have a substance use disorder specialist. We also internally at Hope Cooperative offer substance use disorder services, intensive and outpatient services. We'll have a benefits specialist to make sure that folks who are not currently receiving benefits but are entitled to them will be able to get the benefits that they need to be able to pay a portion of their rent, to be able to get food support, various other benefits, as well as employment services. And then there will be maintenance staff provided by the property management company that will also be part of our team, so to speak. Our staff will develop individual plans with each resident to ensure that they are linked to appropriate community-based services and other housing resources. So that happens at the very, very, very beginning. Our staff connect with the residents as they move in and help determine with that resident's full participation, because we are a client-centered organization, to make sure that we figure out what they need and help them get it. We will be serving 2 nutritious hot meals a day that will be served on site, so folks will not have to leave the property to access other services or find food. So our service providers in permanent supported housing also is really similar to what Danielle has already described for the services that Jamboree provide. One of the key, I think, points of difference for Hope Cooperative in Sacramento is that we're so well connected with the community of providers, so that when a person needs any type of resource, we know where they are and we can make that really significant warm handoff and make sure that they're connected and engaged with the services that they will be accessing. But as we move forward towards the permanent phase of this project, we'll be working really closely with Danielle and her team to make sure that we are all in alignment with all the social services that will be provided on site, as well as connected. Some of you are on the call here. I'm really happy to see Pace is with us and El Hogar, and we will be working closely with those providers, Cottage Housing, any of the other providers in the area, to make sure that we are stronger as a group than any of us are individually in really addressing the problems that we find that the River District is experiencing right now, so that we can be a really good asset to the community. So as I said, Hope Cooperative has been providing these permanent supported housing services in Sacramento for nearly 40 years. And our whole wheelhouse, our specialty, is serving the hardest to serve chronically homeless individuals with complex behavioral health needs. We started in the 90s as the holder of the very first HUD tenant-based rental assistance grants, predating the continuum of care, and we have demonstrated consistent success with those grants over those many years. And we've had continuous HUD funding since the early 90s. We support nearly 200 people in HUD-funded rental assistance units throughout Sacramento County, as well as another 200 in properties that we own or operate. Each year, I don't know how many people are familiar with this, but there is a competition for those HUD vouchers that the community goes through, and we are ranked and reviewed based on our outcomes. And Danielle also referred to outcomes, and we measure that against, and the most important outcome, in my opinion, is that participants remain permanently housed. That's a concern in the River District, is are we going to be bringing in short-term temporary housing and then people just return to the streets? Well, of all total participants served in 2019, we had a 95% rate of participants remaining in permanent housing or exiting to other permanent housing. So this is something that we're really proud of and something that we're really good at. And we aim to do the same thing in this property.
Thanks. Erin, can you talk a little bit about the resident criteria?
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to work closely with the River District. Sacramento Steps Forward is the lead agency addressing homelessness in Sacramento County. They operate the continuum of care. And I am actually the vice chair of the continuum of care. We as an agency are very connected to the community in that way. And we will be working closely with Sacramento Steps Forward and SHRA to create an intake process for phase 1 that absolutely focuses on the River District. So there is a coordinated entry system that operates. We will have a separate but parallel process that will give preference to those who are homeless, at risk of homelessness, and impacted by COVID-19 who are currently in the River District. In phase 2, the property will be open to workforce households that qualify, and I'm going to let Danielle take that piece.
Yeah, so our phase 2 for the workforce development housing, so that is the main criteria is what their income is. So it's going to be based on a 30 to 50% area median income. So really it's just making sure that these individuals are income qualified and then looking at how many individuals are in their household and making sure our units will fit them. So there's no homeless criteria. There's not the criteria of a mental health diagnosis. It's really for any family or individual that follows through in this specific income qualification.
Thanks, Erin and Danielle. I'm going to turn it back over to Catherine to talk a little bit about security and then a more specific timeline for the project.
Okay, thank you, Jaree. So I wanted to discuss security measures at River District Landing. Security is cornerstone and paramount for all of Jamboree's communities. The safety of residents, staff, and the community is of the utmost importance. So some of the ways this will be accomplished at River District Landing will be controlled entry to all buildings, visitation protocols for non-residents that will be enforced, security cameras that will be installed throughout the entire property that will be monitored with video backup, additional lighting installed throughout the entire site, full-time staff who will be on site 24 hours a day, which will include services and property management staff, 24/7 roving professional security that will patrol the entire site, monthly meetings to understand concerns from stakeholders. Jamboree wants to understand the concerns of stakeholders, such as the River District business owners, the residents. We want to address concerns and be a good neighbor. And we also will implement best practices of crime prevention through environmental design. And last but not least, we will work closely with and form a strong partnership with the Sacramento Police and Fire Departments. Okay. So next I want to briefly go over the anticipated timeline for phase 1 and phase 2. So for phase 1, Bercut Village, due to the home key funding, acquisition of the property needs to occur by the end of December and will be operational within 90 days, which is March 2021. Jamboree plans to seek entitlements in spring of summer of 2021 to convert to permanent multifamily housing and renovate the property, which will include such things as modernizing units, adding kitchens, improving common areas, upgrading systems, and exterior improvements. Additional funding will be needed to fund these long-term improvements, and Jamboree plans to apply for funding in summer of 2021 with anticipated construction start date in spring 2022 with the completion of construction in 2023. Next slide, please. So the timeline for phase 2 Discovery apartment homes will include the acquisition of the property also in December 2020. Like phase 1, Jamboree plans to seek entitlements in spring of summer of 2021 to convert to the permanent multifamily housing and renovate the property. And additional funding will also be needed for phase 2 to fund the long-term renovations. Jamboree plans to apply for funding in winter 2021 with anticipated construction start date in fall of 2022 with completion of construction in 2024. So I'd like to hand it back over to Jaree for closing remarks.
Thanks, Catherine. I hope everybody has gotten a really good picture of what the proposal is for River District Landing and its 2 phases. I am a resident of the city of Sacramento, and I work downtown, or I used to work downtown before the coronavirus. I've been here since 2002, and I've seen the homeless problem progress. When I drive to work, I see homeless people under the freeway. When I drive through the River District, I see the encampments. It obviously has gotten worse. Since 2002, I have worked in affordable housing in different positions. I've remained in Sacramento, and I truly believe the only way to address the homeless situation is by providing housing and having that housing accompanied with services and giving people the resources to stabilize their lives. This is what we're proposing in phase 1 of this project for the River District. We're proposing to bring homeless individuals off of the street that are currently living in the River District, give them a home, provide them a home, give them access, all the services they need to stabilize their lives. Our commitment is sincere. Our credentials are strong, and we do want to work with you in an effort to be a partner and an asset to this community. Both Erin and my contact information is available on the screen. You're welcome to contact either one of us. Erin made the offer to tour her properties. The offer is definitely there to tour Jamboree's properties as well. We could do it in an afternoon, but I'd like to open it up to questions to everybody, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, so I have some questions already on the chat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, I have to actually ask to unmute you. So if you have a question, kind of wait for that little button to show up to say unmute. I'll ask on your behalf, but just also give you the opportunity if you have additional questions. So David, you asked if we were new to Sacramento. So we did a little, I shared with you that we are not new to Sacramento. And we talked a little bit about a couple of properties that Jamboree does have in Sacramento. We also have a Northern California office run by Jamboree, and Catherine, who was presenting today, is in that office as well. So I just wanted to check in to make sure we answered that question for you. I'm not sure if you were able to unmute or not. So
I saw a head shake. It looked like a yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe it takes 3 of us to moderate. All right. And then Jenna asked a few questions. She's unable to use the microphone right now. So I'm going to ask for her. And Jenna, I might combine a couple of your questions that you came up with throughout the presentation. So actually, Erin, if you could answer about phase 1 being immediately occupied, can you talk about by whom and by when? And also for phase 1, is there a requirement for homelessness or a mental health diagnosis?
Okay, great. So the plan is that we have to be occupied 90 days after the project is funded. So our target is March of 2021, that we would be fully occupied with the 102 individuals that the first phase will hold. It is a requirement that those folks are either homeless, at risk of homelessness, or impacted by COVID-19. It is our plan to focus on folks that are homeless in the River District. As far as a mental health diagnosis, that is not a requirement. If we encounter folks that have need for serious mental illness, services for serious mental illness, we know exactly how to make that happen. And we are well versed in services for both for all behavioral health needs, and we'll be focused on getting folks linked to those services, but it's not a requirement to live here.
Great. Okay, so there was a question about how do you intend to control the friends and family camping that routinely happens in the River District in front of and adjacent to every shelter and the current permanent supportive housing? I think that would be a question. I know Danielle, we have experience with this with the Berry, and then go ahead.
So yeah, I think
Erin,
Catherine,
go for it.
yeah, Catherine was going to take it, or I can take it. We can, because we've talked about this a lot, as you can imagine. Our first way of dealing with this is that we are going to have 24/7 staff and 24/7 security, so that we we will be controlling access to the property, as well as that we'll be working the surroundings. We will have roving both on-site security staff and driving patrols. And we're going to work really closely with the new Department of Community Response for the city of Sacramento, which is an offshoot of the police department, but it is now a city department. And we'll be working really closely with that department to ensure that we can help those campers find housing and services. And that's part of what the outreach navigator will also be involved in.
And then Erin, I want to add to that too. I think something that you did mention in the presentation is that there are no drop-in services at this site, which I think is going to reduce a lot of that foot traffic that would just be coming, receiving their services and hanging out in front of the building, which we can see at a lot of different centers.
Correct.
Great. So I know, Danielle, you handled this question in the presentation, but just to reconfirm that for the phase 2 workforce housing, there is no homeless requirement or preference, that this is just typical affordable housing for based on income. So if you're making 30 to 50% AMI, you would qualify for housing.
Yes. And typically we get the applicants from, we market and we advertise it, and then we create a waiting list for that. So it's really a first come, first serve, and then we start accessing the applications from there.
Great. So then the question though, kind of related to that is, will those in the interim or triage housing that you intend to occupy immediately be moved to the workforce housing?
I would say
there is a.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Erin.
No, that's okay.
There's definitely a potential that could happen if the residents stabilize and they are able to afford the rent. They fit within the income bands that the project will require. And I think it would be a very nice transition if that would happen. So it definitely can. It's not required to. Individuals that enter Bercut Village will be able to stay to the extent they wish to remain. They will be able, obviously, to leave if they wish, and if they qualify to move into the second phase, that will definitely be an option.
I guess I also just want to point out that phase 1 in its permanent phase is permanent supported housing with heavier services than what will be provided in the workforce housing. So that will really depend on what the person needs as well, and to make that decision whether they transition or they transition in place.
Okay. So David said I'm going to try to unmute him again. I think we might be having some technical.
No, I got it. I can unmute it.
Good. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
no, I was fine. No, I just kind of wanted to reiterate on what Erin was saying, that, I mean, I'm the Vice President of Community Development for Cottage Housing. So we have Quinn Cottages, which is downtown in the River District. We have Cerna Village. So I just wanted to reiterate that one of our, in fact, probably our main goal for the programs that are funded by HUD and the Continuum of Care is basically to make sure, number one, that they do not leave our programs and go to the streets, that they are housed permanently, and if they do leave, that they go to permanent supportive housing. Because if we don't run programs like that, we don't get funding. So I just wanted to be clear, to add to the, because I know there's always a fear, well, they'll leave and they'll go to the streets and they'll hang out. Our number one goal is to make sure that they are housed, stay housed, and if they do leave, they are leave with permanent supportive housing. So I just wanted to reiterate that point, because I know that can be kind of, worrisome in the big scheme of things.
Great. Thank you. So I have another question from Jenna, and then I also just got sent some of the questions that were submitted before. So we'll start with Jenna's question, and then we'll go into the previously submitted question. So Jenna's question is, when do you intend to start the process towards pulling the necessary permits and CUPs?
I can take that one, Natalie. So as mentioned earlier in the presentation, we'll be seeking entitlements in spring and summer of 2021. So that will give us the approvals to operate and convert into permanent multifamily housing. However, it will take a little bit of time to get the funding in place and then to apply for building permits. So there's a staggered construction schedule between phase 1 and phase 2. So entitlements would be, say, next summer, fall, depending upon the timeline of the planning department. And then actually pulling permits would be a little bit later once we got the funding and closing on construction in 2022, I believe in 2020, I think it's 2022 for both.
And a clarification, Jenna was wondering, are we calling phase 1 permanent supportive housing rather than interim housing?
So I did say that, and that is because it is going to begin as interim housing. And then as Catherine went through the timeline, we'll be getting entitlements and financing to turn those units into permanent supported housing. They have to have kitchens before they can be permanent supported housing. So ultimately that is what they will be when they are complete, but they will operate as interim housing until that renovation is complete.
Okay.
But essentially, I wanted to add to that, essentially the service program that will be provided and the safety and security, the services, the approach, the on-site property management, the Jamboree's ownership of the building will be seamless. But for the fact that there is not kitchens there, the property will be run in a manner consistent with the way permanent supportive housing is operated. As Danielle indicated, there will not be drop-in services. It won't be open to the public. There will not be meals or restrooms or showers that are provided. It will function as permanent housing for those that reside in the building.
Okay, so before I go to the questions, there was one other comment so far in the chat that I'll read out loud. This is from Janelle Cazares. To everyone, what a great partnership. This model is an enhancement to Sacramento and greatly needed and appreciated. I hear the commitment to the recovery philosophy to consumers who experience homelessness and mental illness as you share your mission. The reputation of both Hope Cooperative and Jamboree is fantastic. I have full confidence in the partnership. Thank you. So we have a couple questions here. The first one is what might be the impact? Okay, I'm gonna have to hold on one second. Let me read it. What the impact of the conversation will mean to the fire department. So I think the question is what impact of the conversion perhaps will mean to the fire department.
I can go ahead and take that, Natalie. So I think the nature of the question is about, we think is calls for service potentially, and forming a very strong working relationship and partnership with the fire department to ensure that there are reduced calls for service. As mentioned, we'll have 24/7 staff, we'll have enhanced security, we'll have individuals that can deal with a range of situations that would maybe likely require someone to call for emergency services, and hopefully can be de-escalated before that need occurs, of course, if it is a true emergency. But again, the mission is to really stably house individuals to provide these services so that there is reduced calls of services at the site. And if it's relating to more of, say, egress, ingress, and other fire department kind of things, as always, we would work on any development plans to ensure consistency with any code and regulations as we move through our process to renovate the property.
Okay. And then the last question here is, how will you address and mitigate the impacts that continue to affect businesses within the River District as you plan and develop the infrastructure for this project?
So in summary, we're going to create 102 units to house those individuals that are homeless on the street right now. So we will be reducing the number of homeless in the River District by a significant percentage. We're not going to solve the homeless crisis per se, but we're going to take a chunk and we're going to, relieve the tension and take 102 individuals, provide them housing, provide them with services, create structure in their lives, and work with them to recover. We're also going to form partnerships with the police. We're going to, collaborate with the community to ensure that we're working in collaboration with the other efforts that are ongoing in the River District. We obviously understand the tremendous homeless situation that exists. And again, we're seeking to be a solution, not to create more problems for the River District.
Okay. So at this point, that was all of the questions in the chat box and that were asked previously. So what we've done in the past is, in case people were unable to access the chat box, I believe I've actually now given you the opportunity to unmute yourself if you would like to make a comment or ask a question out loud. So I'm going to pause right now and see if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question or make a comment. I have one more question. Are you saying that you're committing to filling all of those beds with people from the River District in phase 1?
Do you want me to do that? Do you want me to take that?
Yeah.
Okay. We are committed to working with Sacramento Steps Forward as they create a process to prioritize residents, people who are homeless in the River District. Yes, that is our plan. But we have to work with the community process to do that. But that is, we are in discussion with Sacramento Steps Forward to create that process of prioritization.
Okay. I'm trying to see if there's anyone, there's someone on an iPhone, so I'm going to actually unmute you in case you would like to have a question or make a comment. Okay. Let's see. I think at this point, I'm going to share the website in the chat box. The website is www.jamboreehousing.com/River District Landing Sacramento. So I realize on that last slide we have TBD, but the TBD is River District Landing Sacramento. So I'm adding that right now. I don't think we got the iPhone if you did have any questions. Okay, I think I'm just going to very quickly go through the list and ask to unmute. So if you do have an unmute button show up, feel free to click it and ask your question. If you don't have a question, you can just ignore me. I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak if you'd like to speak. So I just clicked on Kathy. And Christine, so if you have a comment. Thank you for being patient. We just want to make sure that this is as equitable as possible. So if there are people who would like to make questions or comments, we absolutely want you to have that opportunity. Okay, Janelle, you've been unmuted. Did you want to make a comment?
No, you just said unmute, so I did. But I will say thank you for all you're doing in Sacramento. I was going to put that in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sid, you unmuted. Did you have a question or comment?
No, I don't. I'm just a part listening in.
Okay. Okay, then at this point, I think we've answered all of the questions for now. And then feel free to reach out to Jerry or Aaron and go to the website. I don't know if there's any other closing comments from our presenters.
We appreciate your time and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who are our partners, we'll be reaching out to you directly to see how we can work closely together. Thank you.